What is up, guys? Wraec here with a new video, and today we're going to talk about the collab that is coming up for AFK Journey with the Anime Delicious in Dungeon. They've already posted a teaser for this, which I don't really intend to analyze in this video. We're going to look at 2 frames from this, which are the most important ones, and are going to give us some idea about the skills that those heroes are actually going to have. And you really want to know this info, of course, to better prepare for this event. Beyond that, rather interesting that we are going to get another collab event. If you remember the last one, if you were playing at that point, Natsu and Lucy, the fairy tale collab that we had, we got those 2 heroes, both of which were dimensional heroes, with of course like these sound pieces and everything from the original anime, which was a fairly cool event because you were able to obtain Lucy, I think, to Mythic Plus even, and multiple copies throughout a very lengthy event that you can still find the videos of on my channel. So a lot of copies were actually given out to the players just for free, which was pretty cool. Natsu and Lucy, however, in terms of power, were considered a disappointment back then. They weren't really considered very good, even though I really like Natsu, because he has this like giant Dragon's Breath attack which deals a ton of damage, can stun enemies and block a ton of HP, and you can see, yeah, even there he absolutely deletes those little trial stage monsters. So yeah, it was a pretty cool character, never made it into the meta, neither in PvP nor really in PvE. Lucy had some PvE time, but was fairly weak, and now we're getting into, well, the next collab. There was one in between, kinda. We got another dimensional hero, which was Pandora. Pandora was absolutely insane. I guess everybody would be happy to have her like crown on the account because she's such an insane hero still. Pandora really didn't came from any IP necessarily, so it wasn't like a license they bought to get her. She was just put into the game. So we have like this situation right now where the characters that came like from an anime collab were fairly weak, and we have a character that didn't come from an anime collab that is also dimensional and is fairly strong. So we don't really know which power level to expect for this upcoming collab. Nonetheless, we have some info. To be fair, the trailer really gives us a 5-second piece. It's really short. So just about resembles the anime, really. That was about all we got. Plus, what we also got were the old animations, and those are really interesting. I don't really want to start with Masil, so we're going to jump a little bit forward in the trailer to Laios. Masil and Laios are the 2 characters that we are going to get. Masil already says like Elven Mage. I assume she is going to be a mage as well. Laios gives classic warrior vibes. Also, both are dimensionals, of course. Laios being an A-tier character, while Masil is going to be an S-tier. And I want to just point out a few things that are already found out. So Laios was actually already in a collab with the same developers, because Laios is also a playable character in AFK Arena, and they had a collab. So what we have for that is we already have the skills from that collab, of course. Though we have to see that AFK Journey and AFK Arena are vastly different games. We have seen characters from AFK Arena join AFK Journey as well. I would point out Talene at this point, and while some skills were kind of taken there, the essence of the hero kind of was there, some were vastly changed, so it isn't necessarily the way that the skills we see in AFK Arena are mimicked to AFK Journey. With that being said, I read through the skills. I read also through the lore of the heroes, because that is also fairly interesting. Of course, we have the lore from the anime, from the manga as well, of Laios. And I want to give you like a little bit of a rundown what the essence of the hero was in AFK Arena, and why, especially in the case of Laios, this is not necessarily the case in AFK Journey. So Laios, as like a character, is mostly a pretty standard warrior for all matters it takes. He's described here as quick on his feet, exceptionally observant, above all smart, and that is mostly his thing. His abilities are described like Laios is skilled in swordsmanship, knows simple magic, and is very knowledgeable when it comes to monsters. So in that sense, like, it isn't really a special ability that he has. Some traits that are lifted up is also that he is able to mimic voices very well. He's able to do an amazing impression of a dog, which they seem to have picked up for the ultimate in AFK Arena because he mimics a dog stance. It is a CC ability. I can't really imagine that being the case for AFK Journey. I could see a CC hero well there, but the thing is, we get to see the ult animation of this guy. And if we go over that, you will see something interesting. So that might have been a little bit quick, but he basically does two things. He shows his sword right at the beginning. You can see, where can you see it? A little bit of wiggling from his sword. There you can see little tentacles actually. And then it seems to summon a character. And this character specifically is known in the anime. That is actually a living armor. So you can see the resemblance is quite easy to spot, especially with like the tiger face here that we have. So this is his ultimate skill, and it definitely doesn't match the one that we saw in AFK Arena. In AFK Arena, it says he mimics a dog, and we are definitely able to see that this was not the case here. He summons a living armor from the anime. So that is already a big difference. We can see that Laios will be a summoner hero with his ultimate being centered around that. So we get to this character, of course, from a living armor where we don't really know what this is going to do there. The question remains if it has some resemblance to the anime in that sense. But here I can mostly say that those living armors are really tanky for rather interesting reason if you've not seen the anime. Those are inhabited. They appear to move on their own accord, but actually inhabited by mollusks, which is kind of weird. But yeah, they are rather difficult to kill because they consist like of multiple parts. And I would assume that we get to see like a very tanky summon here. The question, of course, is this summon going to be a big threat? But nonetheless, it could be interesting to have like a very tanky, a very strong summon on the board, kind of in the way that we had with Cessia. I remember the times there at the beginning of the game. Cessia, of course, being rather slow and stands, well, it kind of is the fear that we might see like a hero that kind of resembles Cessia in that sense. Like him summoning a big summon with his ult, that is essentially the description you would also give Cessia. And this makes her inherently weak because before he or she gets her summon, she's rather weak. So that fear is definitely there. We have to see whether or not it will stand the same there. Beyond the ult though, we also see in the trailer that Kensuke is used. Kensuke is essentially the sword of Laios, and that it's a mollusk too. He actually gets it from fighting living armors, and that is actually what happens here. It is a mollusk monster inhabiting the handle of a sword, and this is why you could see like those little tentacles coming out of the sword there, summoning a living armor, because there's also basically the species of this. You can see it right here, species living armor, so that already makes sense. To get back to the abilities from AFK Arena though, I think we are going to see some kind of dog-related ability. I think he will be able to kind of frighten enemies in a sense. I think that is something that we are very likely going to see. Maybe in a way we see it with Callan, where he just throws out the roar and inflicts some kind of debuff on the enemy. That could very well be the case. And I don't, as we saw, it's not the ultimate, so it's going to be probably the first or second passive skill, and in that going to probably be a little bit weaker than the ult we see right here. Beyond that, I mean, you kind of want to represent outstanding points of the enemy. It would be foolish to assume that we don't get to see some kind of cooking ability. It was also part in here. The way we're going to see this is, of course, the question: is it going to be some kind of healing ability? Is it going to be some kind of buff ability? That is very much so a question. If you ask me, I would very much tend more in the direction of like a combination of both, where he probably has a bit of heal, but mainly focuses more on the buffs. And we are going to get monster ingredients. That is also something that is fairly clear, I would assume. It plays a big part in here where he gets buffs from monsters again and provides those meals. I would assume we will see the same there. Switching over to Marcel. Marcel is more difficult, so we'll have a shorter analysis here. That's something that I have to do. Marcel is difficult to kind of understand or to kind of point at some things that stand out. For her, we have like multiple abilities. She basically can do a lot if we go down there. She specializes in fire type magic, relying mostly on explosion spells. So that is something that they also, again, used in the skills that we have in the AFK arena. So she definitely had some form of AoE damage here. But beyond that, the other aspect they took here is the Skyfish. What she actually has is a familiar. I can't really describe it well. Here's the picture of the Skyfish from the anime. Okay, yeah, but enough about that. This was the part that was picked up. It was put in her ult. She can summon a Skyfish, and given that we already have a summoner, and then summoning in itself is not really the main thing I would point out here. I guess they will have to find like another trait of her that is kind of outstanding. And if we fall back to the points that are very, very big about her, I looked over it, you can read it for yourself, but the thing that stood out the most to me is like this paragraph here. She has a deep fear and complex about losing people, as her half-elf blood means she will outlive most, if not all of her friends and loved ones. And this is kind of a big thing for her. And the thing really is that I could see them include that in these skills. Either as some kind of protection mechanic, where she kind of gives an ally a shield or blocks them from dying, or even revives them. Something like that. I could see that being part of her kit. And then I would say she has some general damage stuff probably. I could see them include Skyfish there as well into the ult. We can't really see a whole lot from her ult animation, sadly. Because that animation is basically just, well, her chanting. That doesn't really give you a whole lot of tips. It is chanting, general chanting. So I would say her skill set will likely represent the Skyfish. We'll see that in there somewhere. Maybe not at like such a big point. She's more of a summoner here. I would assume they won't release 2 summoners, so the summoning aspect will probably take a minor role. We will see probably some kind of protective ability, if not even a revive ability. And then I would say explosive damage. And maybe buffs, because she was also like pretty buff focused. We have like the defense rating here, attack rating, defense. So I would think that we will see some buffs, and what the ult really does in the end, that is kind of open still. So what else is important to know? Of course, the amount of copies that you need. Very, very easy actually. You can check this out on Pridwin. But for an ST in general, you need 8 copies plus the acorns. It is not going to be a Celestial Hypergene, so the requirements are going to be just the regular ones for S level. And then, of course, you have the ones for A level, which you have to start a little bit earlier. And to get to Supreme Plus here, you will need the original copy plus 63 dupes, which is 64 in total, so just about down there. This is going to be the same. I assume we're going to have a big event. Last time we got like at least the A tier to Mythic Plus. I assume it will be somewhere in that direction as well. So probably you can look forward to, yeah, some free summons, a very big event, plus a lot of free copies. That is what I would just think that would be the case, because otherwise people would be disappointed. They know that, so I reckon they're going to do the right thing. What do I think about that? So am I looking forward to the heroes? I think both of which are very interesting, or could be very interesting. Personally, like Marcille, we can really not say if she's going to be good. If there's going to be some kind of protective ability that can always be strong if you have like a main damage dealer, let's say a Shamira, and you can protect her for some time, that would be great. What she can do beyond that is of course the question. And then we of course have the summon from Laios, and for him, well, it is kind of difficult. It is kind of difficult in general for those dimensionals to reach the right power level. You always have to keep in mind, you don't activate your faction skill or your faction buff with them. They don't have that. Even though we have enough of them, you won't activate any of those buffs, so they inherently have to be a little bit stronger than normal units. And if they can't manage to do that, well, then you won't use them. So having something like Pandora that you want to include in your team, you really do that in the 2 remaining slots that you have outside of the 3 heroes you already need to activate your faction skill or your faction buff. And if you have the faction buff, then you do it on cost of that, because it won't add to it in the same way Celestial Hypergene would. So it is essentially limiting you to having a faction buff 4 out of 5, which is of course a little bit bad. If they are strong enough to keep up with that, that would be interesting. For Lyros, I have the higher hope, honestly. The summon could be very, very cool. If that has some kind of like maybe a taunt ability or in general is targeted by the enemies, well, that can be very, very strong, can take a lot of damage and potentially put an interesting support up for a little bit of a melee meta even. And that would be something that I would really like. I will summon for them quite a lot. If you want to see that on my channel, then I would suggest you subscribe. Other than that, maybe one last word for the monetization of this. The last time the way this worked was you were able to use diamonds. So you could use diamonds at the same rate you would do them in the rate up. So at 300 diamonds per summon, you were not able to use the rate up invite letters for the collab characters. So expect to not be able to use rate up invite letters. We have no different info in according to that. So I would say that this is probably out. And what they are going to do again, they are going to probably include limited bundles. Last time they had some special summon for the collabs and they were in a bunch of limited bundles. So what you can do, of course, is you can stack up on gems. The best way to stack up on gems is none of those bundles, actually, stupidly enough. It is still the same as it was before. The monthly cards and specifically the classic cassette. You can have up to 300 days in there, and every time you buy this, you obtain 3000 gems immediately outside of the 300 that you of course get every single day, which makes this like your #1 source of gems, of course, for this. And then beyond that, really, I would just say get a lot of dragon crystals ready if you want to summon for them. And beyond that, maybe don't summon immediately if you kind of can't allow it for your account. Like if you are a low spender or something and you just summon for the to have the units, you have to prepare to be sometimes just stuck with the dead crown hero like Natsu, and you just don't ever use. And if you think that's really bad for my account, I rather have like a Crown Chimera, then you probably want to wait and check out some reviews. Beyond that, though, you want to get like the best deal for your Dragon Crystals. Because that would be the most horrible thing ever if you just pay too much for your Dragon Crystals and then you end up stuck with like a few Dragon Crystals, too little to get the desired ascension that you want. So LD Shop has you covered. Just go through the link down in the description, register an account, and you get a 15% and a 5% discount coupon on top of already discounted prices in there, which is absolutely insane. Sometimes you even have some offers like that. I just have like a $4.99 coupon giving me the classic Gazette for free, $0 right there. Which is of course a coupon. It's randomly given out for the second time now. Absolutely crazy sometimes the offers that they have there. On top of that, they have absolutely great Dragon Crystal prizes, a nice service, and they support my channel, so that is very, very good. If you want to support my channel too, just make sure you use the link in the description when you buy something. It will bring you to a special shop page that has the same prices, but will actually give a little bit of an affiliate share to me. If you leave the site and come back to it and just go through regular LD Shop, it will actually not support me. It's your decision, but I would deeply appreciate it if you went through my link every time you purchase something, because it really helps me do those videos. So with that, I just wish you a great day. I hope you liked this info in this video. Hit the subscribe button, and if you're on iOS or Android device, the hype button as well. And yeah, have a great day. We'll see us in the next one.